6:30, and we have a quorum. I will call the meeting of the Conservation Commission for November 7th open. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 17th.
I'll make the motion.
We'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And we have requests for continuances. So I will entertain a motion to continue 61 Ash Street. And they asked for the November 21st meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved to continue. And we have a request to continue the Luke Estates and Luke Drive and to the next meeting, so that'll be the 21st as well.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
That takes care of page 1.
And to move things along and get somebody out of here
Yeah.
and to bed
By the way,
early.
just a clarification, was that for both the roadway and all the lots?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We have under just actually the report for,
Want to do them?
yeah, let's just, might as well.
All right. This is for 273 South Street.
Item 6.
Mo and I visited the site last week and located the flags using the tape measure and compass. And I plotted the flags, and that they were all set out there by the botanist that had originally done the flagging for the septic system repair project before the current owners owned it. The if you remember correctly, the original line was in a couple of places within 50 feet of the back of the house. And I remember that it was very conservative in that it seemed like the botanist hadn't gone into the thicket part of the underbrush to hang the flags. So I think that's why it was located there, and it was done that way because it was a septic that was going to be in front of the house, and it probably didn't matter one way or another. After the new owners were in, they did some clearing, and that's what caused the issue of going out there and having them stop. So what that means is that a lot of that underbrush had been cleared away. So when the botanist was rehired to come back out, there was a little bit easier getting down closer to the wetlands. And so on average, a few feet either way, it was about 80 feet back from the back edge of the house is where the line is. So I figured in my report to you that if we were to create an imaginary line that ran 80 feet parallel to the back of the house and 80 feet perpendicular and parallel to the back side of the house, it would be easy for the owners to know where that line is in case the flags fall off. And that would be the limit of their backyard. That would leave them a 50-foot buffer that could be part of the lawn, and 30 feet from the back of the house to the 50-foot buffer would be allowed for putting up a shed or anything else that they might want to do, swing sets and that kind of thing. So I'm proposing that the line be considered 80 feet from the back of the house and straight across, and that if the commission and the owners agree that that line could be marked with 5 PVC pipes spaced 40 feet across, apart across that back line, and that way it would be set and no further engineering work would be required of the applicant.
Have you seen where the flags were, or where the line is?
Yeah.
I mean, how's that work to where you were looking to?
It doesn't work for any animals, just because it's really, really tight there. The line's 80 feet from the house. However, the way the house is built up, there's a stone wall that wraps around the back of the house. So it really doesn't give a lot of room straight back to support any animals back there. I mean, I'd like a little more than that if possible.
Well, how far, if you go another 10 feet or so, what's it like is it all brush or,
No, I think it definitely gets wet at that point.
yeah,
There's an area if you're standing at the back of the house and you look to the right side, there's a fire pit out there, and it's really mushy, even, this time of year.
That's where there
So,
was a pool.
so that's, definitely
It was literally a pool there.
a wet area. And to the left, as you're standing at the back of the house looking out to the backyard, it's not quite as wet, so maybe another 10 feet over there would be all right. I think the biggest part is over on the right side.
because even if you were to have animals, we were thinking about a horse or something,
Goats, pigs.
because that area where the animals would be in would have to be, I mean, if it doesn't dry out, then the animals are all mud, or, it's not gonna dry out. The winter time, I don't know, it just seems like it's a big, somebody could go by and say, why is there water out there and the animals are in, just being outside, I've had it happen, I've known, just people going by, taking a look at cows out in the field in the wintertime, snowing, saying animal abuse. It's crazy how people would think. I'm just trying to think of if the backyard is,
That's why I wanted a little barn so they could get out of the.
well, yeah, true, but still, if that whole area, I mean, they don't stay inside the whole time.
Yeah, they get hungry.
They get hungry, and that their nature of just being out. If we could do any more for you, or something to try to get on another end, maybe, John, or?
You can't see it.
Like I say, I think the area to the left of the house in the backyard is drier than on the right side. The right side is definitely a place where there isn't any now, of course, because it's out of season, but I could remember seeing and have pictures of skunk cabbage growing in that area, so that's pretty wet when that stuff grows. So I think you could go more than the 80 on the left side, but not, I think by going 80 on the right side, I'm probably actually giving them a little more than what the original was, but I figure it's a good give and take type thing, an easy number to
Yeah.
use.
Not too much you can really do for you, but.
Now, if, say, like a couple of years down the road, if we wanted to add something on the left side, like a barn or anything, and it was closer towards that 80-foot mark, would that something we could address with you guys and go over and maybe discuss then?
Then you got the 50-foot.
Yeah, because it would end up being in the 50-foot buffer. But if that's something that maybe eventually could get approved or something like that.
I mean, we could re-look at, I mean, the only other thing I can think of is to say go 100 feet on that side and 80 on the other, and kind of make a line up in the middle, but I don't know how much more
I
that's
know where the
worth.
middle would be. There's John, I don't know if you remember seeing it, but there's already a stone that's out there.
Yeah, where the
We-
pipe ends?
Where that pipe ends, could we call that the middle, and it's 80 foot on that side, and to that left side, 100 feet on that left side as you're staring away from the house?
That would work.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Then obviously if you're gonna put anything or wanna put anything, I mean, you gotta come back in front of us and.
Oh, you guys
Yeah.
love seeing us.
Yeah.
You guys love
I
bigger-
want to see the baby.
I know. You want to watch them grow, right?
Right, that's
I
right.
mean, shoot, we come to so many meetings, we should be a member of the committee already.
That's right. You'll know more than most. You'd be surprised. People they don't get it.
So
I'm sure you can learn to.
you could
Yeah.
mark
Right now.
you could mark that line with a PVC pipe?
Was that?
You could mark that line that I just mentioned, 800 on to the left
Yeah.
of that, and then 80.
Yeah, I don't know how banged up I'm gonna be after the walls getting cut open. But I'm getting,
Oh, you don't have to do it right away.
No,
yeah, I'm getting cut open tomorrow, so I don't know, maybe I can.
we're not saying it has to get done
Yeah.
like
Springtime?
tomorrow. Yes, by spring, I mean, it's fine. I mean,
Okay.
at this point, nothing's really gonna grow.
Yeah.
There's not gonna be a lot of vegetation, anything
know, it's
happening
okay.
out there.
Oh, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
But I mean,
He's like a 90-year-old man.
Yeah, I have a back, I jump out of airplanes a lot, so,
Yeah.
Also, this is a boo-boo that goes with you.
no, this is from work, I'm in the Marine Corps, so, I tend to,
Get
back in the
boo-boo.
beginning of my career, I did a lot of stupid stuff,
Back surgery? Is it back
so.
surgery?
Yeah, well, this is in preparation for it.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, good.
yes.
I'll be up and going in no time, hopefully.
A little slower, that's all we know, right?
All right.
That
So I
works.
think we're good.
Okay.
180.
180, and we're good to go.
All right. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Now you can let somebody get to bed.
By the way,
Please, ours.
there's an and in there, right? 100.
And 80. 180. 180. Noted.
That's on
Alrighty.
film.
That was a good
Did you pick that up? 100.
Cool.
See you
Have a
later.
good night, guys.
Good luck tomorrow. Okay.
All right. We want to go back up to number 4 on your list.
All right, number 4.
Certificate of compliance
Yes,
request.
this is a project that was a real, one from start to finish was real quick. We had originally approved a couple of months ago an order of conditions to put in a new septic system at 32 Merritt Street, and they're now asking for a certificate. I went out there and inspected it today, and there's no grass. It's basically loam with the nice bluish green seed spread all over the loam, so it hasn't even started to germinate. But I explained to the attorney who's representing the seller that we'd have to get a $1,500 cash bond to release the certificate, and then use that money if it doesn't come through and germinate by either before the snow or next spring. So
I think by the end of this week, it's gonna be.
Yeah, the cold
frost,
weather's
so-
coming, so I think
It's not gonna
germination
do anything.
season's
I
done.
don't think it's gonna do it. So the $1,500 would be kept until the time that the grass is actually growing, and they've gotta keep the silt fence up in order to make sure that it doesn't damage the wetland. So I would recommend issuing it with a $1,500 cash bond, and we won't give them the certificate until they deposit it with the town.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with a cash bond of $1,500.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. And number 5 is the 255 South Street enforcement order.
Oh, yes. This is the one where the owner is parking trucks in the side yard in a residential zone. And not only is he having a zoning violation, he's been clearing brush up within probably within 10 feet of the wetland. So we issued an enforcement order. He didn't respond to it. Went to the house and left my card and asked the owner to get a hold of me. Not one peep out of the owner. And today we just received a notice from the building inspector that the owner is going to the Zoning Board of Appeals looking for a use variance to allow his trucks to be there. So my thought is that the zoning board is very cooperative. If we have issues, they ask us first, and they won't do anything until we have our input. So I'm suggesting that I send a letter to the ZBA asking them not to act on anything for this gentleman until he makes an effort to come back and meet with the commission. And I figure we could fine him, we could do all kinds of things, but if this would be the way to get him to at least acknowledge that he needs to deal with the commission, it's a lot easier that way and more friendly than threatening fines and not being able to even sometimes collect the fine if the person doesn't want to come up with the money, and then we have to go to court to get it, and it just gets ugly at that point. So we have some leverage, and I just wanted to let the commission know where we're standing on that. Doesn't require any action, but I'll send letters and keep everybody informed.
Thank you. Number 7 is the model airplane.
Oh,
I read it, thought it was pretty comprehensive. Did you get any input from?
yes, we did, and I attached a copy with some edits, and the first edit is on item number 2, which is the term. After discussing it with the assistant town administrator, even though the people that I've been dealing with, the president and some of the immediate, like the vice president and a couple of the members have been very, very open and willing to do whatever it's needed. Who knows if that officer corps will still be there a year from now. Maybe somebody else will come in, maybe they'll retire. And so it was suggested that we make a 1-year term rather than 5. And then allow for a 3-year extension if everything's going good. And then we could deal with it thereafter. So that was that one. Second one was on item number 4, improvements. The improvements should only be temporary because this is, again, a very sensitive resource area, so we don't want to see a concrete block building built out there. Of course, they couldn't do it without coming to us, but might as well put it right in the lease that it's anything is temporary. And they're basically using tarps over a temporary wooden structure to provide some shade in the hot summer or possibly during some rainy times. And so everything out there is temporary, and I figured we'll keep it that way. And then if the license expires, no temporary improvements that they made out there shall stay on the property. So they'll have to take it away is basically what it says. And then it also talks about the fact that it specifies that the club will mow and maintain the appearance of the area so that it's not implied that we will be doing any of that. And then the item number 5 is just a typographical, instead of less that, it should be less than that required by the commission. So those are the only suggestions, and we still need to hear back from town council as to whether the indemnification that is proposed here is sufficient enough to protect the town, and if not, we'll have to work out some type of indemnification agreement with the club that would be in addition to this license agreement. So, again, unless the commission has any other edits, I can redo this and send it along to the town council with the original one and say that we've talked about it and we're happy with it.
No, they brought this all up in the beginning. I mean, they were all for this. This is basically what they wanted, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which is good because it helps us with the town out big time. We're not having to worry about maintaining and keeping it up.
And
And it keeps eyes down
And
there.
it keeps them, from
Right.
exactly.
And weren't they doing it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, they're there already, so they're
Yeah.
just continuing what they're doing, and
Right.
And I can explain to them that the term, if they have any reluctance, that we're going to kick them right out. It's only just for the protection of the town, and that
Does
we
it-
have
and
no
it's the
intention.
first time we've done something
Right.
like this, and we don't know the group. They don't, I
And they
mean,
don't, does that cost them any money if we, I mean, do they have to spend any more money to redo the agreement
No.
on
No.
a yearly thing?
They're just basically doing what they're
Just
doing right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just,
And then actually want to do more, and I also explained that to the Open Space Committee, which is like an arm somewhat of this committee, or commission, I mean, and they are very excited, the members, because they would love to see people like the club members out there improving the area so that residents can access the property and be able to walk along the side of it, not actually get out into the landing strip, but be able to get along to the side of it and watch the airplanes and.
Now, all this isn't within the wetlands or anything like that,
No,
right?
no,
just-
it's on a little high knoll that's
I'll talk to you.
that's on the bend of the old Maple Street.
Yeah.
So it's probably an area that doesn't flood
Yeah.
out in that
It's been
field.
there for so long now, it's
Yeah.
just, at least they know what it's all about,
Yep,
so.
yep.
All right. Send it along.
All right.
Thanks, John.
And number 8, documents to sign. Kitty? 24 Pole Road, Bedford Street.
Okay,
Merit
let's
and-
do 24 first.
This is the determination of applicability that we approved at the last meeting.
Yep.
Same with 129 Bedford Street.
The same with 129.
Which one do you have next?
Okay,
Oak Hill, this is the recycling project where we are issuing an order of conditions.
and last but not least is the certificate for 32 Merit.
Okay. And luckily, while you're doing that, luckily I had emailed Kitty the meeting report before the meeting.
You don't have
Sometimes,
to confess, John.
sometimes I have to do it after she's reminded me next week, let's say.
Usually I squawk at it.
And
I need it.
and she says, oh, by the way, on the airport model airplane club issue there, did you really mean to say you wanted to issue a stormwater management permit? And I go, whoops. I'd left it in on that line that I had taken everything else out but the recommendation, so I was able to get it before you guys. Otherwise, you would have been ribbing me about making the airplane club do a stormwater permit.
They might have agreed to it, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. They'll do anything.
Yeah.
Invoices to sign?
Yep, here's 3. If you have questions, I'll explain.
Mileage.
And while you're signing that, I remembered on my own, I received an invoice for 5 Chromebook tablets that the commission will be able to use, and we don't need to pay it until we actually receive the items, but at least we know what it's gonna cost. And it's, if I remember correctly, it's roughly $169 each.
How many
So,
we getting?
5 of them. So we're gonna be under budget on the equipment part of our line item, so, in our budget, so we saved some money.
Pretty good, I wonder if we could
Good job. That's-
kind of like show how the other ones.
If our supplier couldn't come through, I was gonna go to Walmart and use my credit card and get it, because I could get it for the same price. They would have charged the sales tax, which we couldn't have got recouped, but I was willing to do that just to get them, but we didn't have to, so.
And I know Kitty sent out the planning board minutes, which I will just mention that if you haven't read, it's worth the read this time, because there are a couple items that could potentially be coming down the pike at us. One is there's rumors of a 100-lot subdivision off of Walnut Street, which we'll just want to keep an eye on and see where that goes.
Did it explain where it was?
It was the old Paradise Estates subdivision plan. which no longer exists because it expired and they didn't move on with the proposal. But the planning board mentions that the Conservation Commission will have a field day with the number of wetlands on the property. So, wow, looked forward to that. And the Spring Commons project, which was the Peters property, has a new engineer, or actually no engineer. The current one that he had has been let go. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that one as the project moves forward, just to see if the new engineering firm keeps up with what was approved and permitted. But
So back to that 100 lot thing, it was, used to be called Paradise?
it used to be
Estates?
called Paradise Estates.
I'll look it up in
So
our files, I'm sure we have something.
There's
in
gotta
there.
be something I would think is a submittal. But other than that,
Pepperelli and Sterling,
Oh, is that,
Sterling Melody, I think.
anybody else have anything else?
just want to mention that Steve and I had a chance today, really had an enjoyable day at the Roselle McDonald School. Steve's the leader on this, doing a nature quest. We used to call it a scavenger hunt, but we thought we'd change it to something that didn't sound too scary to the kids, so it's called the Nature Quest now, and they had a form to fill out, and the kids had a ball, and Kitty made sure that we had the moose
Paddle.
paddle, or otherwise sometimes they're called antlers, but maybe incorrectly, and then the woodchuck, Woody, the woodchuck, the stuffed woodchuck. Kids loved it. And then they go with these pieces of paper and they run around the playground area looking for all the items that we have on there, and whether they find them or not, they have a lot of fun, and that's all that matters. And then Steve's working on a certificate for each and every one of them, so.
Awesome. Good job.
Oddly enough, everyone found every item, even though John and I couldn't find it.
Well, they're lower to the ground, so they were able to find
You're a
music.
little shopper too. That's good.
And do we want to do a shameless plug for Saturday's event
Oh, yes.
that Open Space is organizing?
Yes, Open Space is having an event at Holmes Hill on Saturday, this Saturday, from 10 to noon. We're going to meet at the mobile home on Pratt's Landing, the new conservation parcel there, and park there because it's so hard to park up on the corner at 4th Street where everybody would enter into Holmes Hill parcel. So we'll have a little hike from there. Before we leave, there'll be a little orientation on the history of Holmes Hill and the garrison that was, stockade that was built there. And then there'll be just a couple of safety tips on working. And it's basically just taking the deadfall that falls onto the trail, moving it to the side, and trimming off any branches that overhang into the trail where you have to duck under. And we're going to have a campfire at the fire pit that's out there near the river, and have cider and coffee and munchkins for refreshment. And it's going to be a cool day, so the fire will feel good. And we'll wrap it up by noontime, and everybody can go home and do other things for the day.
Awesome. Thank you.
I wish I didn't have to work.
It would be fun.
If we have nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it, I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. We're done.